Videos are circulating right now claiming there has been a massive protest against Princess Leonor. Thumbnails show angry crowds, captions scream betrayal, and comment sections are full of people asking what she did wrong. Before you believe any of it, let's look at what is actually true, because this is exactly the kind of manufactured outrage that spreads fast and rarely holds up under scrutiny. We are going to walk through the real history of protest activity connected to the Spanish royal family, separate it from what is being claimed today, and give you the full picture so you are not left guessing which version of the story to trust. Let's start with the claim itself. There is no verified record of a massive protest against Princess Leonor in 2026. Not from Spanish wire services, not from the major national outlets that cover the royal household daily, and not from the international press that has been paying unusually close attention to her this year. In fact, the coverage trend has run in the opposite direction. Leonor completed her 3-branch military training this year, graduating from the Academy of San Javier on July 10 with the Grand Cross of Aeronautical Merit, and international press coverage described her reception as overwhelmingly positive. Publications across France, including Paris Match, Elle, and Vanity Fair's French edition, praised her composure in uniform. At Spain's Armed Forces Day in Vigo this past May, she appeared alongside King Felipe and Queen Letizia for the first time, and the tone from outlets covering the event was celebratory, not confrontational. If a massive protest movement against her existed, this is the kind of high visibility, heavily photographed appearance where it would show up. It didn't. So where does a claim like this come from? Usually one of two places. Either it's AI-generated content designed to farm outrage clicks by inventing a crisis where none exists, or it's a real but much smaller and older event that gets stripped of context and reframed as bigger and more recent than it actually was. In this case, the second explanation points to something real, so let's talk about it honestly, because pretending there has never been any friction around the Spanish monarchy would be its own kind of dishonesty. In July of 2025, a group of demonstrators gathered in Sant Martí Vell, a small town in Girona, Catalonia, to protest a visit by Princess Leonor and her sister, Infanta Sofia, to a private foundation event. Photographs from that day, documented by international photo agencies, show a modest gathering, not a mass mobilization. This was a localized expression of Catalan nationalist sentiment, tied to a decades-old current of anti-monarchist feeling in the region, not a nationwide uprising against the princess personally. It was one small protest, in one small town, over a year before the claims you may be seeing now. If someone is showing you footage or images from that day and telling you it's evidence of a current, massive movement against Leonor, they are either mistaken or deliberately misleading you. This is worth sitting with for a moment, because it's the exact pattern this channel exists to catch. A real but minor event from the past gets recycled, recontextualized, and inflated into something it never was. Add a dramatic thumbnail, an urgent title, maybe some AI-generated crowd footage that never actually happened, and suddenly a small demonstration in a Catalan village becomes a national crisis for the heir to the Spanish throne. That's not journalism. That's engagement farming, and it works because most people don't have time to check dates, locations, and sourcing before they hit share. Now let's talk about what is real, because there is a genuine and important story underneath all of this, and it deserves better treatment than a fake outrage headline. Spain's relationship with its monarchy is not uniformly warm, and it never has been. Support for the crown varies sharply by region and by political affiliation. Polling from the University of Murcia and other Spanish institutions has consistently shown a country that is split, not united, on the question of monarchy versus republic. In Catalonia and the Basque Country specifically, opposition to the monarchy is bound up with broader questions of regional autonomy and independence, questions that predate Leonor's birth by decades and that no individual royal, however well-liked personally, can resolve simply by being likable. When lawmakers from Catalan, Basque, and Galician independence movements stayed away from Leonor's constitutional oath ceremony back in 2023, on her 18th birthday, that absence wasn't really about her. It was a statement about the institution she represents, made by people who reject hereditary, unelected heads of state as a matter of political principle. 3 cabinet ministers from a left-wing coalition partner skipped that ceremony for the same reason. This is long-standing, well-documented political division, not a spontaneous backlash against something Leonor personally did. That distinction matters enormously, and it's one that fabricated protest content deliberately blurs. There is a difference between organized political opposition to a centuries-old institution, rooted in real ideological and regional disputes, and a sudden mass protest against an individual 20-year-old woman because of something she supposedly said or did. The first is real, it's been documented for years, and it's a legitimate part of covering the Spanish monarchy honestly. The second, as far as any verifiable reporting shows, simply is not happening in 2026. It's also worth noting how differently the actual documented events of this year have played out compared to what the fabricated narrative would have you believe. Leonor's military service concluded with a formal ceremony where King Felipe addressed her directly, saying he could see her experiences over these years helping her understand and fully embrace the sense of duty at the moral core of military life. Fernando López Miras, president of the region of Murcia, announced his government would award her the gold medal of the region, saying she would always be one of theirs. Regional leaders praising her and awarding her honors is a strange backdrop for a supposed nationwide backlash. These two versions of 2026 cannot both be true, and only one of them is backed by verifiable, sourced reporting. If you've been on this channel before, you know we don't sugarcoat the parts of this story that are genuinely complicated. Leonor is stepping into a role shaped by real constitutional limits, real family history, including her grandfather's abdication and self-imposed exile after a corruption scandal, and a country that remains genuinely divided on whether the monarchy should exist in its current form at all. That's a rich, complicated, human story, and it doesn't need to be exaggerated into a fake crisis to be worth watching. If anything, inventing a protest movement that doesn't exist does a disservice to the real, substantive political debate happening in Spain over regional autonomy, institutional accountability, and the future of a hereditary crown in a modern democracy. Before we go further, if you're finding this kind of fact-checked, source-based coverage useful, take a second to subscribe. We go through Spanish, British, and other European royal stories the same way every time, checking claims against verified reporting before we ever put them in front of you, and calling out the fabricated content that floods this space when we find it. Let's also address something practical. If you search for this story yourself right now, you're likely to encounter a wave of short-form video content, TikToks and Instagram Reels with titles like, Princess Leonor New Update, or, Leonor 2026 Shocking, most of which contain no actual news, just recycled photos, vague captions, and algorithm bait. Some of it may include AI-generated images of crowds or protest scenes that never happened. This is a broader pattern across royal family content right now, not just something aimed at the Spanish royals. Generative tools have made it trivially easy to produce a convincing-looking crowd photo or a dramatic-sounding headline with zero connection to verified events, and platforms reward that content because it drives engagement regardless of whether it's true. The burden has shifted onto viewers to check sourcing themselves, which is exhausting, and it's exactly the gap this channel is trying to fill. So here's where that leaves us. As of today, there is no credible evidence of a massive protest against Princess Leonor. What does exist is a small, localized 2025 demonstration in Girona tied to Catalan nationalist politics, a broader and much older current of regional and ideological skepticism toward the Spanish monarchy that shows up in polling and in absences from formal ceremonies, and a 2026 news cycle that, if anything, has been dominated by positive coverage of her military graduation, her upcoming enrollment at Carlos III University to study political science, and a steady stream of institutional honors. Anyone telling you otherwise, especially with dramatic footage attached, should be treated with real skepticism until they can point you to an actual, dated, sourced event. This is also a good moment to talk about why this matters beyond just one princess and one rumor. Royal families exist partly as symbols, and symbols attract projection. People project their hopes for stability onto them, and increasingly, bad actors project fabricated conflict onto them because conflict performs better than calm competence in an algorithm-driven media environment. Leonor's actual story this year, closing out 3 branches of military training, preparing for university, navigating a constitutional role that carries real limits on her personal freedom under Article 57 of the Spanish Constitution, is genuinely interesting without embellishment. It doesn't need an invented protest movement to hold your attention, and frankly, treating her real circumstances with accuracy is more respectful, both to her and to you as a viewer trying to understand what's actually happening in Spain. If you want the real complexity of this story, it's this. Spain is a country where monarchist and republican sentiment coexist in real tension, where regional independence movements have their own legitimate grievances that predate any individual royal, and where a young woman is stepping into public life with an unusual amount of scrutiny and remarkably little control over her own narrative. That's compelling on its own. It doesn't need a fake protest to sell. We'll keep tracking this story as it develops, including her transition to university life this September and the Princess of Asturias Awards in October, and if anything resembling an actual large-scale protest movement does emerge, verified through real reporting, we'll cover it directly and honestly, the same way we're debunking this one. Until then, don't believe the dramatic thumbnails without checking the sourcing yourself. Subscribe for the next update, and we'll see you in the next video.